Hey, good morning, everybody. Just wanted to do a market update here. Quick sort of analysis on BTC is that we are breaking out of this local downtrend that had been holding price from this 88K high, right? So this little trend line that you guys see, we had broken down over this past weekend, came down all the way to about 81,000, basically formed somewhat of a inverse head and shoulders like that, and now we're squeezing back up, right? So what that tells me in the market is that the anticipation of the bad news this past, Sunday, Monday, was already sort of baked into price. And even with the slew of bad news, that was not enough to push us lower. So I would say we're probably going to go higher before if we're supposed to go lower, right? Now, again, I have told you guys in my previous video, my analysis of the market is that we're probably going to have one more leg down, and that leg down is probably going to be severe. Maybe it comes sometime in middle of April or May, but I do think it's going to happen, right? One of the simple examples that I want to give you guys is this, okay? If we look at the S&P 500 on a moving average basis, right? So we're going to throw on this, where's the 200 day? Okay, let's turn the 50 into a 200, right? So we like the 200 because 200 is a long-term moving average, okay? It's a long-dated moving average, and we see the S&P 500 effectively breaking below that, okay? When are the past few times the S&P 500 has broken below the moving average of 200 day and stayed many days below it, right? Because this is about 2 weeks or so that SPX is below the 200 day. And the last time we did that was February 2022 and March and April 2022, right? After that, we had a severe downtrend. The market itself pulled back approximately from the highs of, let me see here, from the highs up here to the lows down here, approximately 28, 27%. That's an index, remember, right? An index going down that much is like, that's like the whole stock market going down 27%, you know? So, at this particular moment, say if we were to have a very similar pullback of, 25, 27%, that takes us to somewhere around 45, 4,600 points, right? Now I'm going to show you another magic trick. Okay. Not really magic trick. I just follow markets a lot. Check this out. This is the 200 weekly moving average. Okay. Ignore my lines and levels. Okay. 200 weekly moving average. What do you see in this? What you probably would recognize is since 2011, for the last 14 years, we have used the 200 weekly moving average as a strong area of support almost every few years, right? That has sort of staved us from a true sort of bear market recession on a yearly basis. You may have, like 2 month, 3 month, pullbacks in the market, but nothing as bad as the 2007 to 2009 financial crisis when we broke below the 200 weekly moving average. Okay. So again, since 2011, right? September 2011 till now of 2025, we have stayed above the 200 weekly moving average. And so if we were going to come back to the 200 weekly moving average and simply bounce off it, continuing our uptrend, where does that lead us? It takes us to about 46 to 4,700 points on the 200 weekly moving average. So again, going back to what I said earlier of this pullback that we had in 2022 of almost, 27, 28%, where does that put where does that put SPX? Puts us close to about 45, 4,600 points, which again is just about that 200 weekly moving average. Now, connecting this back to crypto, where are we now? Okay, BTC, we are holding up this trend line. This is a not a multi-year, but actually, yeah, multi-year. It started off in September 2023, holding up this uptrend, right? Now, sort of breaking down below that would effectively mean that from here, we may have, if we do break down from here, quite a severe pullback. BTC in 2022, when we had this sort of 27% pullback experienced a very, very severe drawdown, right? Like it went from 69, 70,000 down to about 75%. Okay. Do I think that's going to happen now with institutions involved and stuff? Not really, but I don't see why we can't get like a 45, 50% pullback. So like, 45% takes us to about 60K, 50% takes us to about 55K. Okay. So those are my general levels of where I'd be looking out for BTC. Now, again, putting on the 200-day moving average for Bitcoin, you can see, similar to S&P 500, BTC is breaking below the 200 daily moving average, putting this on the weekly basis, whereas the 200 weekly moving average, it's somewhere around, 45K, right? So if things were to get sort of bearish and really brutal, like 2018, 2020, 2022, right? And then the reclaim in 2023, for Bitcoin, that 200 weekly moving average is around 45K. All right. That's my general thought process on Bitcoin SPX. Now, connecting this back to things like Solana and Aptos and stuff, like, I mean, these things are going to get absolutely, murked and punished, right? So I really don't have any idea how low these assets can go. But what you want to be paying attention to is what I like to do is let's go to CoinGecko and we try to figure out, what are the leading sectors that you want to be, buying stuff in, right? In categories, personally, obviously, artificial intelligence or AI is not going away anytime soon. RWAs are not going away anytime soon. Right. So these are probably the top tier, assets that you want to be paying attention to. And of course, memes, right? I mean, in my opinion, like you probably want to be paying attention to, let's go to Deck Screener. Okay. You probably want to be paying attention to assets that I've spoken about here in my Discord. I've spoken about magnetics quite a bit. Again, none of this is financial advice, but just letting you guys know, some of the coins to keep your eye on. And what you could kind of see is coins that have relative strength versus, say, the rest of the market or other coins on the same chain you probably want to keep your eye on, right? So magnetics being one is probably one that should be something that you want to start researching into. Okay, you can follow their Twitter feed. They're super active on Twitter. They also have a pretty compelling website where they post a lot of like positive content and definitely something to keep an eye on, right? So point is that as BTC, if it starts to go down like we sort of forecast, and same thing with the S&P 500. And by the way, right, like for the foreseeable future, we can stay in this box, okay, like this range, because this is sort of your range low right here, right? You've now broken below that, but that doesn't mean that you can't tap that range high right here, this level, and then break down sometime, second half of this year. Okay, that's again if things are going to get really wild and brutal. So, my overall thought process is, be cautious in the market, play the ins and outs wherever you get the opportunity. You don't need to trade it, of course, but if you are a good trader and you want to sort of utilize this range trade, same thing with BTC, right? If you think that you're a good range trader and you want to utilize sort of this range that you're being given, okay, this is going to be your range probably for the foreseeable future until price, really breaks out and starts pushing higher or starts to, push a breakdown and pushing lower. You're going to, play the internals in this area, right? And those internals can, lead to good sort of money making value and good sort of pocket money for the next several weeks. But the breakups and the breakdowns, that's going to be a little while. We of course have, today's sort of topic of the day, which is tariff conversations, right? Um, Tariffs are obviously top of mind for pretty much everybody. Um, I think Trump is going to be talking about tariffs with the Rose Garden meeting today. I don't really know what's going to come out of it, but point is, it's going to be on everyone's mind, and that's going to probably create volatility in markets today, tomorrow, rest of this week, and maybe even the rest of this month. So be cautious, be careful, do your research, sort of keep your keep your risk tight. Make sure you don't sort of put on too much leverage. Um, and you know you have enough capital sort of saved up for what comes ahead, whether we resolve up or down. All right. That's it. Good luck, everybody. Cheers.